Welcome to the 15-Minute Financial Feast podcast, bringing you 15-minute segments to help you retire with purpose on time. We're serving up food for thought and bread for the head. Are you hungry to learn? Here are your hosts, Mark Triplett and Troy Westendorf.
During this episode of the 15-Minute Financial Feast podcast, we're listening in on Troy Westendorf and Mark Triplett's Lunch and Learn series, where they covered a wide variety of retirement and tax planning strategies to help you retire with purpose on time. Hey everyone,
Hey guys.
Welcome to our Tuesday Lunch and Learn. I'm your host, Mark Triplett, with
Troy Westendorf.
Co-host. We got Troy Westendorf. Today we're going to talk about common blunders of a newly retired. Oops, we spent too much. We see this happen on occasion, or we try to help folks avoid making this mistake. But today we're really going to be talking about why do so many retirees report spending more than they expected when they actually do retire and they cross over from their working years to their post-working years. We'll talk a little bit about two specific reasons why this is likely to occur for so many people, and how folks that are paying attention here today can actually possibly avoid this by just being aware of it. So
Absolutely.
That's what we'll hit on today. These are our weekly lunchtime sessions. We call them our lunch and learns. We're serving up a little food for thought, a little bread for the head. So we're going to go ahead and get started here.
So Mark, first question is, will spending increase or decrease post-retirement?
So interestingly enough, many pre-retirees believe that spending will go down. I think a lot of our financial services industry has propagated that in articles I've seen written by financial professionals, and those who just write articles for financial professionals have over and time and again reported that, your spending will go down. I think that's being misinterpreted. Your income is likely to go down. If you quit working, maybe your income goes down, but oftentimes spending goes up. In fact, several studies that have been done, just retirement studies, comparing pre-retirees' expectations. So these are folks who have not retired yet. Their expectations of what they will spend in retirement, and comparing that to folks who have retired. They've been retired for a year or more. Those that are retired report spending somewhere between 20 to 30% more in retirement than what they had expected to be spending. So there are a lot of different reasons why that might occur, but we really want to think about why would somebody underestimate their spending by as much as 20 to 30%?
It's a lot. So it brings to the question of, what day of the week, Mark, do you spend most of your money?
That's a fair question. So what day of the week do I spend the most money? Well, Monday through Friday, I'm locked in my office, right? From 6 o'clock in the morning until 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
And then I go pick up Hunter, and I go back to my home office, and I lock myself away for another few hours. So I can't spend any money during that period of time. Sunday, I'm usually passed out on the couch. So I guess Saturday is the day that I make the trips to the grocery store, or we go to Costco or Sam's Club or Home Depot. So Saturday would be the day we probably spend the most.
Right. And that's exactly right, because Saturday for most is when they go out and get their shopping done. And the opposite is when you're retired, as my dad would say, every day is a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you ask a retiree, and my folks are really good on this, but it could be a Wednesday and they have no clue what day of the week it is. For me, I know it's Wednesday. It could be Thursday, it could be Friday, they're not sure. So when you get that, though, you're absolutely right. They have more than one day to go out and do their shopping. They have more than one day to get all of their Costco days in, or their Sam's Club, or whatever day they're going to Target. They have all this free time. Now they can go out and do the shopping as they want. The tendency is you get bored and you tend to go to the stores and do some shopping when you have nothing else to do.
Or it doesn't have to be just shopping. You could be going out to eat more frequently.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
The cool little joints around town that are usually packed are the ones where folks who are retired go and enjoy breakfast with their friends, or lunch with their friends,
coffees.
Maybe in the summertime, golf, things like that. There's just more time for leisure. There's more time for spending resources and enjoying yourself, as you should.
Right.
Versus when you're in working years, you don't have that luxury because you're trading your time, your expertise for a paycheck, and you're kind of locked into that.
Exactly. And we know that retiring, the spending through retirement generally starts to decrease. But what we also know is when that starts to decrease as they age in retirement, What doesn't decrease is the healthcare expenses when they start to increase.
Yeah, what you're describing, Troy, is actually something that Dave Blanchett, PhD with Morningstar. In fact, Dave Blanchett is the head of retirement research at Morningstar Investment Management. He's also an adjunct professor of wealth management at the American College of Financial Services. So Dave Blanchett calls this thing the spending smile. I'll share that with you on the screen here. But the spending smile just kind of demonstrates statistically how folks tend to spend in retirement. When they transition from their working years to their post-working years, oftentimes that spending goes up a little bit more than what they expected. There are a couple of reasons for that, and we'll talk about that. But over time, they have their go-go years. They're going on trips, going on vacations. They're spending more money. They're active. And they kind of slow down a little bit. We call that the slow-go years. Maybe not taking as many trips, maybe slowing down a little bit on terms of activities. And then we finally get to the no-go years where maybe they're not traveling at all, but health expenditures start to creep up. Medical expenses associated with aging happen to start increasing that spending. And he calls it the spending smile.
Yeah, so there may be many reasons, Mark, but what are two expenses that we have to plan for retirement that we maybe not normally see in our working years when we're getting a paycheck on the 15th and the 30th? Maybe we don't see these things come out. What are a couple of those things?
Yeah, so we tend to serve a lot of folks who are W-2 employees. They trade their time, their expertise for a paycheck, right. and they work for somebody, and then they get this paycheck on the 15th or 30th of the month, and they're usually good savers, so they don't spend it all. But what hits their bank account is kind of what shapes their lifestyle, where they live, what they drive, where they go on vacation. Really, their lifestyle is wrapped around that. There are two expenses, though, that come out prior to that check hitting their bank account that they have to account for in retirement. Number one is taxes. Taxes have already been deducted by the time that paycheck hits their bank account. And number two is healthcare. If you're an employer-sponsored healthcare plan, that cost is coming out prior to that check hitting your account. And often those are overlooked, and they can easily add up to 20 to 30% more spending in retirement than what was expected.
So let's say this, your advisor asks you, okay, Mark, how much do you spend in a month, or how much do you need to maintain that monthly lifestyle? And you go through the calculations in your head, figure out what you're spending on gas, maybe on food, maybe going to the grocery store, and you come up with a $6,000 a month spending plan. So you tell your advisor $6,000 a month. Your advisor says, great, that's what we'll put in your spending plan. How does that normally work if we're not really putting the pen to the paper?
Well, we see this far too often. Instead of putting together a detailed spending plan, we guess at how much we actually need based off of what's been hitting our bank account, based on what we've been kind of accustomed to having during our working years. And we're automatically missing out on two pretty big expenses if we just do that and take it at face value. So, the reality is that it's super important to actually have that spending plan, because if you don't, you're going to end up in a situation where for many folks, they're pulling money out of IRAs, 401ks, and other IOUs, the IRS, all pre-tax accounts. Yep. So for every dollar they distribute, they don't get to spend 100 pennies out of that dollar. They may only get to spend 20 pennies out of that dollar because they have money going to state taxes and federal income taxes. And in addition to that, now we have to account for healthcare expenses. And if we actually did a session on this before, but if you have a husband and a wife, and one of them hits Medicare age first and happens to be the individual who had the employer-sponsored healthcare, right? So now that person's going off of their employer-sponsored healthcare, but the other spouse was enjoying that healthcare from the employer. That goes away. Now they have to go out in the open market and buy health insurance. That can easily be an extra $1,000 a month until that spouse is eligible for Medicare age. So we could, if we have a 2-year difference between a husband and a wife, for example, and the first spouse goes on Medicare, the other spouse might end up having to pay close to $12,000 a year. Now that's after tax, right? Because we have to spend pre-tax money. We have to spend IOUs like 401ks and IRAs. We have to take money from that to pay for the healthcare now.
Right.
So we have to gross that up for taxes. So taxes in healthcare can quickly add up to some pretty significant dollars if we're not planning ahead for that.
And you're talking like that because it can make an impact of about 25% on a plan. And we're talking like we know it because we've seen it quite often anymore.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times that situation hits where we do have one spouse is retiring, they're not on Medicare yet, we're trying to fill in the gap of a year or 2 years, and it can have a pretty big impact on the plan.
Yeah.
Which typically keeps people working longer.
Yeah, and some people work longer because they think they have to, and then when we actually do the spending plan, even with the additional expenses for healthcare and taxes, we're able to demonstrate, no, you're going to be okay. So it just everybody is different, and every situation is different, and that's why we require everybody that we work with to do a spending plan. We're not trying to be tough. We're not trying to tell you what cable company to use. We don't get to that level of detail, but we need to know kind of what it costs to maintain that lifestyle.
Yeah, so if we're setting out to write a written retirement plan, the spending plan is a big deal. We can maintain our current standard of living. We adjust for inflation, and we hit the big one is we actually put the taxes and the impact that taxes are going to have on the plan.
Yeah, I mean, Troy, if you came to me as an advisor and said, I want you to put together a plan that will allow me and my spouse to maintain our lifestyle that we've become accustomed to, account for taxes and adjust for inflation, and make sure that we don't outlive our money, and I don't take the time to figure out what it costs to maintain your lifestyle today, I don't have enough information. Right? This is elementary math. I remember when I was probably about fourth grade. That's my little boy Hunter. He's 9. He's in fourth grade. This is about the type of math they do. Right? They bring home problems like this. Math problems like 3 + 3 equals
6.
Okay, that's an easy one, right? You just have to figure out what those two add up together. Right. Now, get a little bit more difficult. They get tricky, and they start saying things like, "Oh, what's 9 minus blank equals 3?" So 9 minus blank, some unknown number equals 3. But that you can do that, right? Right. Yeah. 9 minus blank equals 3 equals 6. Yeah. 6. You have to know that middle number is 6. But if I told you to finish this math problem, blank, so some unknown number, plus blank, some unknown number, equals 8.
It's a little more complicated to figure out.
Well, the correct answer there is not enough information, right? That's what will get you an A on that math test, not enough information. And when you don't do a spending plan as an advisor, I think you don't have enough information to help people make good, solid decisions. And we know that when we do a plan, and we're very candid with folks, by the time we get it all nailed down and we think we've got it licked, it's inaccurate.
Something changes.
Right? Because rates of return will vary, people's lifestyles will change over time. There are a lot of different variables. But if we aim small,
we miss small.
Bingo.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you look at it, so with the retirement plans, the consequences of failing to plan are people decide that they're going to spend less and not really do what they want to do, or they're going to spend too much and end up running out of money. And we see a lot of times where we see a plan where people want to do something and they don't do it, or they haven't done it because they think they don't have the money, or they're going to run out of money and they don't want to run out of money. So it's a lot of the unknowns and that they're not aware of, that they don't know until we actually sit down and put an accurate plan together, and we can say, okay, here's the dollars you have now. Please, you want to go on that trip? Please go on that trip. That's something you want to do.
I think the spending plan, doing a spending plan, is liberating. Those who, once the spending plan is done, are in jeopardy of exhausting their resources before they're going to run out of breath. Right. At least they know, and they can take action to correct course. Those who are concerned about outliving their money, but are not in jeopardy of doing so, now they are given the liberty, or they've been liberated to maybe do some of those things, create some of those experiences for themselves, their spouse, their family, that maybe they were holding back because they were concerned they were going to run out of money. And so by doing this, it really does, it liberates folks to make good decisions going forward, and allow them to have permission to do the things they want to do when they want to do it.
Yep. Agreed. And I think the old days of an advisor putting this on a notepad, trying to figure out if you're going to run out of money or not, and do their multiplications on their average rates of return and say, yep, this is the down amount you have, you're going to be fine.
Retirement planning is more complex than that. If anybody can do it on a legal pad, they're a better person than I am. So, Troy, really what it comes down to, you can suffer, we're all going to suffer pain. We're going to suffer one of two pains, right? You can suffer the pain, and it's short-term lived pain, but the pain of doing the proper planning to prepare for the future, or you can suffer the pain of regret and then have to spend a lifetime of trying to repair mistakes because you didn't prepare and didn't do the steps you need to.
Right.
And that's really what we're talking about. I know that the spending plan can be painful for some folks to go through that process. Many of them have never done it before, but we hear over and over again the same thing. I'm really glad that we went through that process, and it helps us account for things like taxes. It helps us account for things like healthcare spending, and then just adjustments to lifestyles that people might want to have. I'll tell you one thing. I've never had anybody tell me in the years that we've been doing financial planning, I've never had anybody tell me they want to have a lower standard of living after they retire than they do during their working years.
We want to cut our spending plan by half.
I've never had anybody tell me that. Anyway, that's all we have for this week. If you want to read the article that we wrote about this particular topic, you can actually go out and visit our website at www.Triplett-Westendorf.com. And we wrote an article about this, and it's titled, let me see if I can flip to it here. It is titled, You'll Need Less or More, or Will You Need Less or More Income in Retirement? Sorry about that pause there, but you can go out and check it out. It's Triplett-Westendorf.com/blog. And if you haven't visited mypt5.com, please do so. You can learn a little bit more about our purpose and timeline philosophy. There's a nice video out there about our philosophy and how we do things, our planning process as well. And if anybody that might benefit from the type of work that we do here and you want to introduce us, this is a great place to send them, mypt5.com. So I really appreciate everybody joining us today. Troy, next week's topic is going to be all about the truth behind the truth about buying bonds. So the truth about buying bonds, they may be riskier than what you actually might think. So we're going to dive into the complications of owning fixed income in a very low interest rate environment and the risks associated with that. And that's it. Until next time, Troy, every dollar has a purpose.
Every dollar has a timeline.
Retire with purpose on time, everyone.
Take care, guys.
You've been listening to the 15-Minute Financial Feast podcast. Remember, every dollar has a purpose and every dollar has a timeline. If you have questions about today's topic, schedule a call with a team member. Visit www.mypt5.com. Until next time, be sure you're taking steps to retire with purpose on time. Mark Triplett is an investment advisor representative of and advisory services offered through Royal Fund Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Nothing contained in this program should be considered an offer to buy or sell securities. Different investments have different risks associated with them, and not all investments are appropriate for all investors.